What's up, everybody? We're back. We were gone for what, like a month?
Yeah, 1 month hiatus. I think it's like
One
our.
month
I mean, that's about what we've done in the past for our like breaks.
vacation, and then I had COVID, and it was this whole thing. And
Yeah,
it's great to be back. Dives is like they're back. We are just
we
late
are.
as usual, so you can tell that we're back because we're late. But also, this is not Cynispection anymore. This is Cynispection, which is a small little change there that we did because we realized we're pretty cynical. So it's more like cynical inspection kind of thing. Right,
Yeah,
John? I think
the
it's
name
good.
fits. The name fits. Yeah.
Yeah, name fits, and we like kind of moved some stuff around in the logo, and it's now pink, which apparently was controversial. Because I don't think any of us like colors pink. I'm
Well, I
fine with
mean,
pink. It's just
if
not my
there's
color.
anything that we do well, it's we're controversial. So like,
Yes, it's what
yeah,
we do.
it's fitting, right?
It's our MO, and it's. I mean, it looks 80s, kind of like the concept is kind of like the opening scene of Terminator kind of thing, where you see the letters, kind of like Stranger Things kind of took that concept too.
Yeah,
Which, incidentally, that's what we're talking about today.
we
Stranger
are.
Things. John, I want you to explain why we spoke about Stranger Things and not all the 20,000 things that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other things that we want to talk about, but Gabe is very, and as we know here, it's just really me and Gabe hanging out and recording it. So he really wants to know why my impression of Stranger Things was the way that it was, which was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's surprising. That was surprising. We don't like. I would have preferred if we reviewed like the whole season instead of this like first chunk.
yeah,
Although I really appreciated it did in two parts. I thought that was very smart because
yeah.
it keeps people talking about it um more than usual. The problem with Stranger Things and all these streaming shows, usually, not always, but like they come out, people binge them, and then you
Yeah.
don't talk about or think about them ever again.
Well, so that's like the problem I'm having with The Boys right now, for instance. So I'm having to rewatch season two of The Boys. I remember season one. I know I watched season two, but like I can't remember it because it's been so
Me
long since
too.
a
Me
lot of these
too.
shows, right? So Stranger Things, luckily for me, like I did remember it. It was pretty memorable second season.
Third
Um
season.
or third season, sorry. Third season. So I didn't have to re-binge or anything like that.
Can we go on a small tangent? Like the boys, don't you feel I love the boys, I really enjoy it. It's really entertaining. But doesn't it all blur together for you?
Yeah,
Like
very
it's
much.
it's like visually they just like the same thing. And we'll talk about how this season of Stranger Things is very visually specific, I think.
Yeah.
But like the boys is like always the same like visual thing, always the same like blood and guts over the place.
Hmm.
And always like let's catch the next soup. And
Yeah.
here's the weird thing of did you watch this week's episode with the cyber superhero
No,
sex?
no,
Oh,
I
sorry.
haven't. So, like,
It
here's the
doesn't
thing.
matter.
I'm rewatching because it does do the same thing over and over again. And
Yeah.
like the best part about the boys isn't like, oh, like bad guy comes, let's go catch him or whatever. The best thing about the boys is like those moments in between though, those like I wouldn't even call them major plot points, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's the moments in between those that drive the show. So like I can remember those moments, but I don't remember like these big like, oh, what supervillain are we going to catch or whatever. So
Right, right. Or who died. Like I have
yeah,
trouble forgetting like who died, why they die. Like it's incredibly entertaining. It's a very entertaining show. It's like but it really does blur together, I think.
and
Like
I
it
will
might
say I
yeah.
forgot at the beginning of Stranger Things that Ella lost her powers. It's been years. It's literally been years since we had watched this. So the fact that 11 had lost her powers, that just like didn't click with me until like
Yeah.
a couple minutes in when they had to remind you of it.
They had to remind you of it. I mean, I mean, let's go into Stranger Things because yeah, I mean it was a long time. I rewatched the whole thing like in the weeks before this one with Rachel, and she'd never seen it, and I kind of like
Yeah.
talked her into it because she was like, "This is too creepy, too scary, whatever."
Yeah, my wife
You
will
know,
not watch it. There's
right?
just like no way. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to kids, like you get like really shitty things happen
Yeah.
to like children, which is of course an '80s thing. But I do believe that within the '80s, like this is basically somebody took their favorite '80s movies and just like blended them
Yeah.
together. But I think what works about this one is exactly what to me doesn't work about um Ghostbusters Afterlife and like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and all this stuff, which they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
essentially. Just bringing, remember what you liked, here it is again. Um, but I think Stranger Things just takes inspiration and makes its own thing. Like it's not ripping off anything. It's just like, oh, I like this character from here. I will create my own character that kind of resembles that other character. You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah,
have any
no, that's
thoughts on that?
exciting. I mean, like, yeah, they do that, and I mean, they do use things out of like Dungeons and Dragons and everything else, and like, so it's new, but not new. I don't know how to explain it. Like, yeah, the ideas are rehashed, but the characters are new.
Well, every single idea is rehashed from something
Yeah, yeah,
else. You know, like you watch the original Star Wars movies, and it's like Flash Gordon kind of thing, and then you watch Flash
for that
Gordon
matter. Yeah,
or Dune, exactly, and then you watch Flash Gordon, and then it's inspired by 1940s serials that George Lucas liked, and that was
mm-hmm.
inspired. Like it's like nothing's really original at all. It's just like you watch something and it inspires you, and I think
Yeah,
Stranger Things, the biggest success that it has, it's not like it feels like the 80s. It's because it's like it takes those things, but it's its own thing. Like, for example, the character of Steve Harrington, which is my favorite character in this whole thing.
mm-hmm.
Like in every season, he's in the first season he's like the 80s bully,
Yeah.
and now he's not that anymore, you know. And like the 80s bullies were just bullies, you know. It just like started ending with them being douchebags, and that's it, you know. Like there was
I
nothing
mean,
else.
even Karate Kid, like it continues on and on through Cobra Kai and everything else. So
But now Cobra Kai, it's also Cobra Kai does its own thing because
yeah,
yeah, I mean we're like respecting the originals, but like the bullies here are just like, you know, kind of like just people that are
yeah.
going through some shit. And back then, like you watch like Biff Tannen from Back to the Future, or you know, like Johnny Lawrence, or like any other like 80s bully, they were just like douchebags, you know, and that
Well,
was it.
and I like how it's always like a person from the football team or like, the swim team or whatever it
Yes,
is.
basketball,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's always the jock versus the nerds, which is
Yeah.
like a quintessential 80s thing.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, that's how this one starts. But
Yeah.
we haven't really. It's been 7 minutes, 8 minutes. We haven't really talked about the season at all. But okay, I mean, let's see. Let's just go overall. Like, how did you feel about it? Like, forget about how it compares with other seasons. Just this one as a chapter.
So that I think that's my problem with it is I got all the way to the end of it and it just like stops and I'm like, what the fuck? Like you just like I was expecting it to just play another episode, right? Like that I was just like, okay, I'm used to a cliffhanger in a TV show, but this I was just like, okay, where's my next episode? Like it just introduced. So I guess my big problem with it is you take an entire season to introduce the backstory of the main villain and call it part one and part two, but these episodes are really long. It's not like a very short season when you actually look at the time that's spent, right? I think that it's easily 10 hours. So you spend 10 hours just to learn the backstory of,
So what? What's wrong with that? Did you ever read Watchmen?
read the comic.
Yeah.
No.
Well, in that one, like it's like chapter 8 or something. They tell
Yeah.
you the origin story
Yeah,
of.
yeah. I know that it takes till the very end to find that Ozymandias is the bad guy, right?
No, no,
So,
not that. I mean the backstory of Doctor Manhattan. It's
oh,
also the same in Zack Snyder's movie,
yeah.
which some people
Well, he
complained
did it
about.
frame for frame, yeah.
Right. So it's like at like 2 hours into the movie, he's like, "This is who Doctor Manhattan is," and you're like, "Okay," but it's been 2 hours of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I,
but that
I,
annoys me to know it.
well,
Like,
it's a parallel. It's kind of like
well,
a
in this, but kind
Godfather
of
kind of thing.
like in this though, we were actually finding out a real backstory. Like with Doctor Manhattan, it's like they explain it in what, a 10-minute scene, maybe. I mean, it's Zack Snyder, so it's probably like a 35-minute scene. But
With tons of slow mo.
yeah, with slow mo and whatever. But no, I mean it takes a long time to find out who the villain is and why they're killing people and why they're trying to open a gate between universes and why.
But that's a nitpick more than a like, you know, it's more like a nitpick, right?
it's a nitpick, but it's like I got to the end and I was just like, damn it, like okay, thanks
So
for getting
you
me down this. It's Fellowship of the Ring. It's fine. Fellowship of
okay?
the Ring is a fine movie. But when
Yeah.
you compare it to the other Lord of the Rings movies, it's like, God damn, I just wasted 3.5 hours of my life and they didn't even start to get to Mordor. Like, they haven't even gotten to the outskirts yet.
You know, some people might murder you for what you're saying right now.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, Lord of the Rings fans be damned. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Fellowship of the Ring is a very long movie. And Clerks 2 said it best when Randall is in there and he's making fun of Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings, don't get me wrong, but it is the Fellowship of the Ring is like the least rewatched of the three. Of course, I think uh, Return of the King is the most for me, but
I mean, to me, it's the Two Towers. Like the Two
Two Towers
Towers
is good,
is
and
my
I've watched
favorite.
that one a ton.
You on what?
I've watched Two Towers and Return of the King a ton. I'll skip Fellowship of the Ring. Like I just won't watch it because I don't find that like it's like I don't need this. I already know the backstory to get to where we're.
Well, it has some. Like,
Fix it.
I've learned to like Fellowship more. I've learned to like it more. So I mean, look, and I think that like a big part of what makes me like Fellowship more now is that I've seen it in the full context of the thing. Like it
Yeah.
actually, I think Two Towers and Return of the King actually make um, Fellowship better.
Yeah,
So I think to you, I think when you see the last two episodes, it'll make the rest of it better.
I'm
That's what I
really
think.
hoping. Yeah, I think it will. I think it will. I'm a little annoyed. Like we only have 2 more episodes, right? That's the
Yeah, but like one is 2.5 hours long, and one is like an hour and a half long. So it's like
yeah,
6 episodes, 5 episodes
yeah,
length. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
Pretty long.
you'll be fine. I mean, look, I what I like. I'm going to tell you why I really enjoyed it, and I put it in the title of the video because I do think it's my favorite season yet.
Mhm.
Many people say the first one's the best because so something that I read that the Duffer Brothers said is that when they pitched the series, they said that they were pitching um, a children's 80s movie in the story from the kids. So it was like the Goonies or E.T. or something like that, where the kids know something that the adults don't know. And they're trying to get away from the evil adults, like that, those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the second story is a horror story, um, which is the teenagers. So if you look at the first season where like Nancy's trying to find Barb, and there's a scene where Nancy goes to the upside down and she's running away from the monster. Remember that
Mhm.
episode? And
Right.
then they fight, and then they get together to kill the monster. So that's kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street kind of
Mhm.
vibe, right? And then the adults, I think they said it was like I might be remembering this wrong, but I think there was like a comedy, so it's like more comedic, kind of like
I mean, the
the
adults in this are
adults,
very like dumb '80s adults that have
right?
like nothing, like they don't know what's going on.
It's like
The
slapstick. It's like plane, trains, and
Yeah,
automobiles kind of thing,
like
almost.
Mrs. Wheeler, I can't remember what her name is. Mike and Nancy's mom is like
Yeah,
just this ditzy kind of like '80s mom with the hair and like
the
the way they
hair.
eyes and yeah,
And then there were Winona Ryder and Murray story in Alaska this season, in
Mhm.
Alaska and Russia eventually in this season. It's almost it's more comedic. It's a different tone. So anyway,
Yeah,
what they said is that season 4, they don't have kids anymore because all the kids are now like way older, right? The kids in
yeah,
real life are like 18 to 20 years old or something like that.
yeah. I
So
think some of them are up to like 25. I think.
right. So what they said is like, look, now it's all horror except for the adults. So
Yeah,
I think you can tell that from the season because it just opens and it's like, here's Evil Dead, here's a Nightmare on Elm Street, here's
yeah,
the Thing. Like it's just like they just throw all these things in there, which is what I like the most because I've I've I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies last year for the first time. Most of them I've seen like a few, like, but not all of them. And those movies are better than I ever thought they would be. And a big part of it is because they're like teenage movies before they like, they're like teenagers hanging out. And it's not
Yeah.
like when you see like Friday the 13th is like teenagers having sex and then getting killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's
Nightmare on Elm
the
Street.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nightmare on Elm Street, they like hang out and they like there's like a lot of bonding between the teenagers, and that's what this one is, 100%.
Yeah.
And then horrible things
I
start
mean, they
happening.
literally put why am I blanking on the guy who plays Freddy Krueger
Victor
as
Creel.
yeah, as Victor Creel. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they have so many like references. It's like they go on a trance, which looks like the dreams from A Nightmare on Elm
Mhm.
Street. They see people taunting them and yelling at them with the same tone of voice and kind of like
Yeah.
demeanor as Evil Dead. So they have like many of those things going on, and I enjoyed. It's what I was saying about they took pieces of what they liked and made something better. I think they took the Nightmare on Elm Streets and they gave them a new level of depth, so that
Yeah.
everybody that dies, like for example, they introduced this girl, like spoiler alert for the show because you've seen it, but like they introduced this girl, I think her name's Chrissy, in this first episode, who actually, who she's played by Grace Bandine, who is the daughter of um Casper Bandine from Starship
Oh,
Troopers.
yeah.
So she's the
I'm
daughter of
looking
that
this up
guy.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, they introduce her, and you're like, okay, she's gonna be like the new kind of like bully, she's a cheerleader, and then they just like kill her in like super violent way with a character who
Very
was somewhat unlikable before that. Like I found Eddie to be somewhat unlikable. He grows on you a lot throughout the season, but at the beginning he does
Yeah,
that
he's
whole
just
thing.
very annoying and kind of
He's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they make you like care more about these characters before they're like brutally murdered. Um and then it culminates so far in that episode with Max being haunted by
Mhm.
Vecna, which is
And you
the
don't
best
really,
slasher thing I've
yeah.
ever seen.
I mean, I really did like the way that they handled all.
Yes, it is the new Genesis. Oh God, why did you do that?
Oh my
God,
God, no.
that's never gonna leave our minds. Thank
Yeah.
you, Loretto.
So one thing I really did like about Vecna is that it was a different type of way to murder people. I know this sounds really weird, but it was almost something out of like oh, why am I blanking? We watched this. It was something like almost out of like I don't know, like a Christian type thriller, like Constantine or something like that, where there's demons and
Yes,
like, the souls of people are being like it's not a new concept by any means.
like Exorcist.
Exorcist kind of,
Yeah,
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 like
yeah.
Exorcist 3 actually has a scene where they kind of like get pulled away and anyway, it kind of has that, right? Like it has that weird demonic possession type thing, except it just takes it to a whole new level when he like crunches them into a ball and rips their eyes out, which
Mm.
I still don't know why he does that. But it's really cool.
It's really awesome, and they actually come up with a good way of like, this is what they are seeing, and they are seeing him like kill
Hmm.
them, but in the real world they're just like being torn apart.
Yeah,
I love that. I mean, it was rough. It was like completely untamed, like no fear.
yeah,
Um, Lo says Vecna's murder style gave me J horror vibes and a little bit of Raimi, a lot of Raimi. I mean,
yeah.
there's yeah. I mean, there's a lot of it. I mean, I feel like they've been inspired by different films in the past, like mostly ETs, and like I
Well,
think
the Raimi stuff, like when they're in the Upside Down this time, the Upside Down is very different in Vegna's like home, I guess you'd call it,
yes,
the house that's broken apart. That is very Raimi style, like with things just kind of floating and everything. It was interesting. It was great.
with a clock, like all
Yeah,
those things. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I think so. I think I enjoyed it the most because like it feels like a slasher. Like they've tried to do slasher TV series and different movies, and like we've talked about slashers here, like, but this one I feel like they're doing it really well. Like I think somebody's gonna die. Like I think somebody has to be killed by Vecna. Based on the cliffhanger on season on the last episode, I think it'll be
yeah,
Nancy.
yeah.
It could be
But I think
Nancy.
I don't know. That'd be very. I actually do think it would make sense to be Nancy. And now we're getting into like guessing because they've set up the love triangle between Jonathan and Nancy. Like it would make sense that she dies and like they're friends, like or something.
Yes.
So like there's no fighting
Yeah.
or something at the end.
Well,
I could
also like
definitely see
she's trapped in Vecna's nightmare, whatever you want to call it, at the
that.
end
Mhm.
of the episode, right? So you don't know
Well, I
what's going to
mean,
happen to her.
it's either going to be that or you're going to see Steve like run back and save her some way.
Lo says the eyeball pull and the broken
Yes,
jaw sort of
very
reminded me
much.
of. You know, I've never seen the Japanese versions. I saw the American versions. The Grudge was really bad.
Yeah.
The Ring, I like. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's they get the right inspiration. They have some really great ideas on their own. The Duffers and Sean Levi, who also directs several of the episodes. Um, but what about what is do you have like a favorite and least favorite character moment, stuff like that?
I mean, my least favorite character at the beginning, it changed, right?
Eddie.
Like yeah, Eddie. It was definitely Eddie. Like I was just like, oh god, I hope Eddie dies soon. But then like I actually started to like Eddie.
Me too. It took a while. I think it was that introduction scene. It was too much. It was too
Yeah.
much of him,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like it
in the
was
cafeteria, standing
cafeteria.
on the like, yeah, that was just way too much.
I like
Um,
that he looks too old to be in high school, but they're like, oh yeah, the guy just like is like
the guy
doing
who plays
12th
Jonathan
grade.
is almost, I think he's like almost 30. I think he's like
Yeah,
28 or something like that.
makes
Yeah, they're all
sense.
getting, yeah, they're all getting a lot older. I mean, it was 3 years between seasons, so like it's a long time.
You know, I love that the guy who plays John, like the character Jonathan is now a stoner. I thought it was
Oh,
fucking
dude.
hilarious. I love
So
that.
you were gonna ask my favorite character so far is the story
Argyle.
guy. It's hilarious because it like reminds me of Fast Time. Like it's the one thing that lightens up the show a bit. Is it's like they were like, let's take an element of Fast Times at Ridgemont High and like throw it in here with the van and everything like that. And he's like super driving around, like slamming on his brakes, smoke rolling out, like Cheech and Chong esque. And they actually reference Cheech and Chong in there, which is funny too.
I think his name is Argyle because of Die Hard, right? The
I don't
driver
know.
in Die Hard. Like, I assume he drives and he's I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe not, but yeah, he was funny. And I mean, well, let's talk something that we kind of like. Lo said Jonathan being a stoner is perfect. I know it's so good. Like it's just like I don't know why they didn't do this before. It's just like he moves to California, meets a new friend, and he's just like getting stoned all the time. And he's like that dinner scene where he doesn't know what's going on, and Joyce also doesn't know what's
Oh,
going on. She has
but
no idea.
How? That's like the question I'm asking. Come on now. Like, let's be honest.
I mean,
Anyway.
I guess in the '80s, not everybody knew about weed. I don't know. Like, but I like that she's just like so distracted that she has no idea what the hell is going on. Um, but I like too is that like something that I brought up the other day, Lo, you might remember when Leo and I did a Stranger Things versus Cobra Kai thing.
Yeah.
But it was like we were very constructive. Like I was like, I don't know if I can pick between these shows at all. I love them both, so we did it in a great way. But something that I mentioned is like visually, Stranger Things kind of like reinvents itself in some way or the other per season.
Yeah.
Like season 3 had the summer aesthetic and the mall and the Russians and like new things. So this
Yeah.
one, it brings in the California thing, it brings in the dark environments with the slasher stuff. And visually, I thought this was really compelling, like really good.
Yeah. And I mean the entire time it's very interesting you brought that up because the entire time they're in California, it feels like very different than when they're back in
Yeah,
Illinois.
yeah.
Like when
It's
they're in
it's yellower,
Yeah, yeah,
sunnier,
yeah.
right?
Sunnier, brighter
Yeah,
blues. Like the sky is always. Well, I mean, that is California, right? But like that, it makes a huge difference when you're shooting it in a certain aesthetic. But that also, I think, shows that they're not in danger. Like they're in this happy land where they're not really in danger, and like Elle's biggest danger is some like bitchy girl at the school named Angela,
right.
right? Like
Which
versus.
she's a piece of trash. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and credit to that actress. She really she did
yeah.
a
Mhm.
fantastic job. And then
Oh
it's
yeah,
just like
really
it's like
hated her.
Stranger Things being like the way it is, it's like the bullies, but then you have Eleven just like crushing her nose with with, um,
A roller
um
skate.
a roller skate,
Yeah.
and it's like horrible, and everybody's like, "What the hell is this?" It's like she's
Yeah.
been bullying her for months, doing
Yeah, and she
horrible
like
things to
breaks her
her.
nose open with a yeah. But that's how
Right.
they get found, which is the funniest part.
Look, the guy says Yukosis Vikna, like Jean Reno in
Oh,
Godzilla, like Yukosis Coffee. That was good. Well, speaking of Vecna, um, I get that you didn't like that they didn't tell you the origin story until the end. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
it
died
wasn't
exactly.
quite
You
until
do
it's
not feel sorry for her, but you're still like shocked. You don't even feel sorry but for the girl, but you still feel shocked by the violence, right? Didn't you feel like also
oh
like
yeah, I didn't expect her to just bust her face open.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's nice. I
Yeah,
don't
I
give a
mean,
fuck.
I
She was
agree.
clearly a human demon to 11. I
But
agree. I agree,
but at the same
but
time, this is what gets them caught.
yeah, no, the show plays with your mind. Like
Yeah.
she's a terrible person towards 11, and then this happens, and you're also like, whoa. She's
Yeah.
also like she has a concussion. And anyway, back to Vecna.
Yeah.
I get you didn't like when they told the origin, but did you like the character of Vecna?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I
Meh. All
mean,
right. You're so
it's cool.
indifferent.
It's because like I don't think we've seen enough, right? Like I do like the way he kills people. Like we've now seen
You've
in
seen a
in the
lot. You saw his whole life. What are you talking about? Since he was a child.
no. Like as Vegna, like he's in very few and far between. Like he's in a scene for like 20 seconds, which
Well,
is
that's
like the
intentional. That's Freddy Krueger, and
yeah,
every
that's
Freddy
the Freddy
Krueger.
Krueger aesthetic, right? But I
I
want
mean,
to see
great
him like
performance by the actor.
yeah.
So that guy wasn't. Did you ever see the Mortal Instruments, the City of Bones?
Why
It
is
was
that fire?
like a young adult movie starring Lily Collins from like 2000 and something. Lo, did you see the Mortal Instruments?
Oh, I never watched this movie. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I never watched this.
Well, that guy is in it, and I was like, when I saw him come into the scene, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, but he's actually really good in this. He transforms from like when he's a nice guy, and then he's kind of creepy, but then he's really nice, and then he's just like a murderer. Kudos to
I
that guy.
mean,
Hats off. Hats off. He's really
but
good.
he was tricking Eldin. Like I did like that, but I did like that he tricked Elle, and it took all this time and like all this other stuff, like for her to like pull out the little piece in his neck, and
And
he singled her out.
he does the Magneto thing, like join me in my evil
Yeah,
ways. Like Lo says, I knew that guy was number one, but I
is
didn't
he
think he
the
was
guy
Vecna.
actually playing Vecna?
Who?
The guy who's playing one, is he also playing Vecna? Like the
Yes,
the same
yes,
actor?
yeah. And it's also, I don't know if you could tell, but Vecna is practical. Like
Oh, I
he
saw.
not
Yeah, I
makeup,
saw online that like it's a picture of him like sitting in the chair drinking whatever.
like a
But,
smoothie or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah. Or a coffee, something like that. Yeah, I mean, he's like he went through the makeup process. The makeup looks amazing. Also with
yeah, it
that great
does.
lighting, like because it's all
But
red.
I've
Yeah.
read that like the special effects for this just were stupid expensive for this season,
Yeah.
like because of that too.
Right. I mean, you can't. I mean, there's a part of it you can tell a bit, but what I like about TV shows, okay, a small side rant, but not rant, but side point. But
Yeah,
TV shows like Game of Thrones, this like they have really complex, great special effects, but the star of the movie is never the special effects. The star of the
yeah,
movie is Vecna, Max. That scene with Vecna and Max, like the special effects around them are fantastic, right?
mhm.
But they are the scene is about them, and I feel like when you talk about like modern like Star Wars, Marvel, Zack Snyder, like the stars of the scenes are sometimes the special effects, and the camera
Not
lingers on
yeah.
they linger on the special effects for a normal amount of time because it's the money shot. Like, look how
Mhm.
expensive this was. They don't
Yeah.
do that here. They don't do that here.
No, they didn't. They didn't. They made the characters the point. So
Right.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
The special effects were great. It was just a lot. Who looks scarier, Vecna in season 4 or Gabe after watching No Time to Die? I heard that you didn't like it, so I heard that you're one of us now.
We didn't hate it. We didn't dislike it. It's not a great film, but we didn't hate it,
No, we
right?
didn't hate it. We just didn't like it.
We were like meh, we were
I mean,
like
I didn't like the
whatever.
ending, so
It's
I
not
would
even
get.
it's not even close to the worst Bond movie. Like Dives, if you have time, like watch our review or listen to our review, so you see that we were both like kind of like this was stupid in some ways,
Yeah,
weird in others, but whatever, right? It's the
yeah.
vibe.
But who is scarier between Gabe after watching No Time to Die? He did call me,
Oh
okay,
yes,
after watching No Time to Die.
which was
So
like
that being
it was
said,
like at 10
he was
p.m.
much more
Pacific.
excited about his dislike of the movie than he was of his like of Vecna for this. Although, I mean, Vecna is it's a very good character. I'll put it that way. Like, I'm not gonna say it's like perfect, but it's like a mesh of a bunch of different '80s horror, which I kind of like that.
all great, all great.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I got a lot of X-Men vibes from all
Yeah.
the 11 storyline. Like even the where she trains, not in the past, like in the future,
And
the
oh
present
yeah,
or
it's
whatever.
like
Dives is watching our No Time to Die review. Yeah, watch it. It's fun. We'll probably watch it on double speed because I think we went over for a long time, like probably like an hour.
we probably didn't like. Yeah. But
Um,
I did. I mean, with her in the tank and everything, and they're like re-triggering her bad memory to be
and
able
the tunnels look X-Men like,
Yeah.
like it was, and then you have the two
I do.
doctors helping her, and they're
Yeah.
different, they're kind of like conflicting with each other.
I do want to see like why one went from being human into whatever he is now, some dark wizard. But not
Because
really
the
a dark
upside
wizard.
down, man, you don't need to like you're doing that thing you do again. Like it's just because the upside down. That's all you need to know.
He just
That's all
turns
you
into
need.
some weird thing with tentacles.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the Mind Flayer wanted him as a part of his army, and he was like, "Yeah, you'll become a part
So
of."
that brings up the part that I think annoyed me like a little bit, which was they bring up the Mind Flayer because the Mind Flayer's been around since season 1, right? Like,
yeah,
we know that it's in existence and it's trying to break through, and like Hawkins is the way, and blah blah blah. But like, we only have 2 episodes left, 6 hours or whatever, so like a full season. But how are they going to close out the entire thing with Vecna and the Mind Flayer and make sure that we're like, because they have to like kill the Mind Flayer, right? Like, I think.
but not this season.
I mean, this is it though, right? There's not going to be another season after this.
It's gonna be one more.
There's going to be one more full season.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's this second volume plus season 5.
Oh, I thought that the second volume was the last part.
No, there's gonna be season 5. So they still have a lot of time to wrap it up.
Okay. Because I was really worried about that.
No, come on. This is one of the most successful shows in the world.
It doesn't matter though. They're getting so old. The kids are going to be literally the guy who plays Jonathan will be like my age by the time that the show is done.
Yeah, yes, but also that's an 80s thing. Like teenagers that look like 35. Like, have you ever seen a movie called If Looks
They're
Could
going to start
Kill?
having these like wrinkles.
Yes. I mean, Eddie, the guy who plays Eddie, he looks like an 80s teenager.
Because I think he is like, yeah.
No, but he's supposed to be. They explain it like he's like
yeah,
because
he got it's grade. The Fast Times at Ridgemont High thing,
yeah. So I mean but all 80s teenagers kind of look like him more than they look like Nancy. Like Nancy, for example, especially in season 1, the actress Natalia Dyer, I think is her name. She looked like super young in the first couple of seasons.
She was super young in the first one.
Here it is. Yeah, low exactly. The entire cast of Friday the 13th looked like a bunch of 30-year-olds, including Kevin Bacon in that first movie. You remember Kevin Bacon? Have you ever seen the first Friday the 13th movie,
John? So, all right, I just looked up how old Eddie is.
How old is he? 29. 29?
Yeah.
Oh God, he looks older than us.
Yeah, I know he does, but he's 29. So
Yeah. Also, Eddie supposedly was held back for 3 years, so that was fun little
yeah,
mass playing. Exactly. I mean, that was good. His first scene that kind of like neither you nor I really loved, like goes over like what is my backstory, who am I,
well,
what
and
is
it
my
kind of makes him
personality,
into like this idiot, though, right? Like he's this guy who's failed 3 times, and he's just hoping he gets a D to pass. And like, I mean,
and
come on.
you're like oh this guy, but then he has that little scene with Chrissy where he's selling
Mhm.
her weed. And you're like, okay, so this guy's a nice guy, you know.
He's just
He's
there selling your weed.
Right, but he's being nice to her. Like he's not a
No,
creep,
he
you
is. He
know.
is. He
Like
is.
he's being nice to her. And then because again, another '80s thing would be the drug dealer is 100% evil and a douchebag, and
Yeah.
you know, like kind of like a rapist or something. But he's just a guy. He's like,
But
hey, you want some weed? Here it is.
that
You
scene
know.
kind of like breaks the continuity of what they built in that other first scene, though, because like that scene is predicated on the fact that Eddie knew that girl when they were like young kids.
Hey,
He- he-
Isaac. He says Eddie's great. I agree. Yeah, sorry,
so,
continue.
but all right, so that scene in the woods predicates on the fact that he knew her when they were like little kids in middle school. But he would have never have known her as a little kid in middle school because he would have gotten held back 3 times in high school.
Oh, that's true. That's a goof.
Yeah,
That's a mistake. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't notice that,
so,
but you're right. They
yeah.
probably fucked up. You know what? They also people noticed that there's a scene where somebody has a camcorder and you see what date it is, and apparently that was Will's birthday.
Oh,
And then like the creators were just like, "Oops!" Like we forgot it was his birthday. But some people were like, "It's better that like nobody knew, because
yeah,
like
yeah,
nobody
yeah.
gives a shit about Will." Um, we have 3 minutes and we need to end it, but like Will, okay, I heard some people saying this is a disservice to the character of Will Byers, but like I feel like the fact that Will is still there being Will after like he was a walking MacGuffin for the first season.
I mean, yeah, I
They,
think
you
what
know,
they did, all right, something that they did really well, and I'll say this in like 20 seconds, is they made it so that you don't really feel sorry for him. You're like, come on, move on.
here's Isaac fixing our plot inconsistency. Yeah, you know, she could be a
Maybe.
sixth grader and he could have been eighth grade. Yeah, I mean that's likely.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, continue.
Anyway, what was I gonna say? The thing about Will is that they made up is like, okay, just move on. You need to move on. The rest of us are moving on. Like you can't just be this little kid anymore. And I like that because the character it just kind of feels stuck. And they're trying to like say that they also realize that their character is just not progressing
Well,
the plot forward any.
but I don't know if you have this, but for example, when I was growing up, like many of my friends, not many, but some of my friends started going to parties and, you know, like meeting girls and whatever. And I was still like, no, I like video games and, like movies and whatever. And it took me longer. And for example, one of my best friends, like he didn't like start like going to parties, like actual parties and meeting people and whatever until like the 12th grade. Like he was just like he would refuse to like we would be like, hey, let's go to a party, we could introduce you to what no, like he would not go. And I think I see a lot of like those kinds of things in Will, and I like what they've done. It's like everybody's like moved past, they've had girlfriends, they've had, but Will is still like, oh, let's play Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you got this, but it seems like there's some hints that Will might be gay.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Like, and that he kind of like sees
likes
Mike as
Mike.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a possibility and that would be fine. But I also think that I wouldn't be against like just being like, yeah, Will is just not into anybody. He's
Yeah.
just like he likes Dungeons and Dragons. He likes to paint. He's a good friend. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to like have like a romantic relationship or a, you know what I mean? Like there's different
Yeah.
ways to handle the
Well, I also
character.
think he's so mentally damaged, and bringing back up the painting. God, we only have 30 seconds. Bring back up the painting. I think the painting is about the mind flare because he won't show it to anybody. He doesn't want to tell anybody. He's like, it's very strange that we don't know what he's been painting. and that he won't show 11, and he won't show Will, and he won't show anybody else.
I think everyone assumes that it's like Mike naked or something.
Yeah,
You know, like
that's but I don't think it's that. I think
I don't think it's that either. I think it's
no,
plot
I don't
related.
think that they would do that.
And there's a scene in the beginning. There's a scene in the beginning. You know what I would like? Let's give a couple minutes more, but like predictions. I will tell you what I would like. I would like Will to be like, I understand my path now, and my path is not to have a girlfriend, not to be the best friend, not to play D&D. I'm the guy who needs to kill the Mind Flayer.
Yeah,
like I am the guy that can do that. I need 11 and I need whatever, but like I'm the guy that can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he saw, and he painted it. You know, I would like something like that. Like that would be something I'd be interested in seeing. And that would be way more interesting than I'm gay and I'm in love with Mike, which would be a good character
as well.
But
but it's not character progression and stuff. But it's not a resolution, which I think is what the painting actually is a resolution. It's at least it's hinting towards an end. I think personally. I also like the Lucas storyline. Was really good.
I love Lucas in this season. I love.
It was a really good storyline because it's like peer pressure and what it can do, and like the fact that he was going along with it until he realized that, oh God, it's not my friends that are the crazy Satan worshippers. It's these guys who are just like going to go out and kill people because they're angry.
The gang violence, supposedly nice guys. Yeah. I mean, I love Lucas this season. This is my favorite Lucas season by far. I mean, they have all these different things. Like, it doesn't like they already had like somebody coming out, like Robin came out as a lesbian. Like, so this if the whole arc was just like, Will is gay. Like, I don't know if that would he might be gay, but I don't know if that's the arc they're going for. They could do something different there. I like this idea, like this concept, and it plays really well in like the last Harry Potter movie. The point where Harry Potter realizes like, I have to die in order for us to win. Like I need to, and then Harry comes back. But like, that moment where he's like, I have to die or we will not win. Like, I would like something like that for Will.
And we also didn't get to talk about Robin. And like, I mean, you just brought her up, but she has a great plot line this season as well. Like, she's really, you're in the insane asylum and you're like, is she gonna lose it? Is she gonna cause an issue? Is it gonna be her that like fucks all of this up? And then she saves it all and like really like pulls deep and kind of makes up this whole story. And like, it's not really a story though. I think it's actually how she feels and it's why she's able to really do that. But I really liked her this season as well. Everybody was, I mean, Will is just kind of the only one this season that's like, okay, come on, like let's progress this. Everybody else is progressing forward in their storylines and Will is not. Even Dustin has a girlfriend and like, he's still solving everybody's problems and he's funny enough, best friends with his old arch enemy, Steve. And that's just like a great like back and forth dynamic that the show's had.
So good. I mean, you know what? I love this it was a little moment, but like Dustin is like kind of mean towards Steve many times this season. Like, it's like, oh, Captain Obvious here. Like when Steve says things, he's kind of mean to him, but Steve is just like kind of like, because Steve doesn't know how to play the game as well as the kids do. He doesn't know anything about Dungeons.
Well, I think that's like just kind of like, just what we would do, or like guys just hanging out and like just kind of giving somebody else shit. For instance, like
I know, but Steve doesn't do that to him. Like, Steve doesn't,
Well, because Steve still sees Dustin as a kid, right, and doesn't feel like he should be saying that to a kid. Whereas Dustin sees Steve as like
friend, as he would see Mike or whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's this little moment where when they're in the Upside Down and Eddie and Steve are talking, and then Steve's like, Eddie's like Dustin worships you. Like, he thinks you're like the best guy ever. Like, he just like, and he was like, I didn't want to like you because I thought I was the better like friend to Dustin, but you're like awesome. Those little moments are so good because I love like how Steve is like, okay, like, like he's just this way because he's a kid and he's just like being friendly, but like he actually like admires him. And I feel like Steve, they like really like dragged him, through the mud. Like he was like beaten like 20 times last season. He lost the
Bit.
girlfriend. He can't find a girlfriend in this one.
No.
He's almost eaten by zombie bats. Like it's just like all over the thing. But he has those moments. He's like, okay, I'm doing better.
No,
Yeah.
it was good.
All right, this was supposed to be half an hour, John.
All right,
That
we
was
did it in
17
25
minutes
minutes.
ago.
It's a good,
25
start to season 3. And
Season 3 of Cynispection will review weird things soon, I hope.
Yeah,
But have fun and
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. If you're listening to us and you hear us talking about comments, because we also do this on YouTube, so you can check us out on YouTube anytime. But we'll also be on podcast as well. I'm Gabe. That's John. And this has been Cynispection Season 3.